Great. Would you like to hear a story?
I definitely would.
Or we should do, hi, Car.
Hi, Vicky.
How are you?
I'm good. How are you doing?
I am here, and that is all that matters today.
Some days that's the best we can say.
I'm here. I've rocked up.
What's that thing apparently in Finland that they say up and not crying?
That's great. That's accurate, I would say.
And one out of the two will do. Like, that's fine.
One out of the two. I was thinking tonight I might watch like a comfort film, like a Disney film or something.
Oh,
just like really easy. But then I've watched so much telly today already. Like, it's embarrassing. Like, genuine. Like, I've had your automatic power off, you know, when the telly warns you that it's going to turn off. Yeah, it's been a long
Netflix
time.
goes, are you still there?
Yeah.
Should we call an ambulance?
And I was quite mad when that came up, and I was like, yes, I'm still here.
Don't judge me, Netflix. I'm your consumer. Don't question me.
So I had the Netflix one and then the telly one. So I had a double barrel.
Oh, that's offensive.
It was a little
you
bit
can't go outside. It's horrible.
It's pretty grim today.
So, you know, I think that's perfectly sensible way to spend
the day's gone so quick. Like, I can't believe like we're late afternoon, evening already. So
I know.
I think that's a sign that you need it. So yeah. Right. Okay, let's do this. Yeah. We are going, Cara, to Australia.
Oh.
We together on the pod have never been to Australia. Have you ever been to Australia?
No, have you?
No, me neither. No.
So far.
Yes, so far. And it's I guess the preempt this is that this is quite modern Australian history. So this is like 1800s. Okay. Obviously, there's a wealth of history pre the British Empire of Australia, and I am sure we'll cover that one day, particularly like the Indigenous history. But today we're coming to last 200 years worth of history.
Okay.
I've got a little bit of an intro for you. So the dusty air of Western Australia hung heavy, not with the scent of gum trees, but with a different kind of silence, the kind that follows a scream. Her father, her last remaining figure of stability, had taken a life. A drunken rage that ended in a bang, a public scandal, and a hangman's noose. This is the story of Edith Cowan, not the politician, not the pioneer, but the girl. The girl aged 15 who lost every remaining hope in a moment of violence. Her mother, her father, and now her innocent, all gone in a triple loss that left a crippling shame for generations to come. This is the story of how she rose from the depths of her personal tragedy to become a national symbol of hope.
Oh my gosh, that's intense.
It's a little intense. We don't dwell too much on murder, just to, it's very important, and hopefully you'll see why it's pivotal to the narrative. Lots of resources today, mainly government websites, and Britannica. Every week there's a Britannica one. Also a really interesting blog called More Than Our Childhoods, which is it's actually a organisation. I think the blogs may be disparaging to it, but it was really fascinating that they cover people who have had difficult childhoods for whatever reason and have gone on to do amazing things. And I thought, I don't know, that really resonated with me. I found that very interesting.
Yeah.
So yeah, go and check that out. So Edith Cowan, the lady of the day, was born in 1861 on a remote sheep station. Do you know what a remote sheep station is?
I think I might. I think it's like a farm where the sheep, it's almost like a cattle ranch, but for sheep.
Yeah.
And shall I tell you why I know this?
Yes,
just please. A little detour. One of my friends from New Zealand grew up in an agricultural setting. And so by the time she was 16, the only men she ever saw were the sheep shearers who would come to the sheep station to shear the sheep at sheep shearing time. So she has a really very specific taste in men. Can you shear a sheep? Okay, how fast? So that's how I know what a sheep station is.
I'm here for it. So yeah, that's it. She was the second child of her dad, who was a pastoralist, and her mother, who was a teacher, Kenneth and Mary. However, when Edith was just 7, her mother actually died in
Oh,
childbirth, which is very common, isn't it, at the time? So that would have been the 6th child of the family. So obviously a lot of siblings. So there was 5 of them. And because of that tragic death, obviously operating a ranch is quite difficult. The siblings were then separated and they were kind of spread out across
oh,
Australia. So that whole unit, all she's ever known, has just been obliterated. She herself was sent to boarding school in Perth, which is in Western Australia. She did keep in
yeah.
touch with her father ongoing, but in 1876, by the time she was a teenager, her father had remarried and he had some issues, particularly alcohol related, so like drunken
Mm.
issues. And he ended up actually shooting and killing his wife in a domestic dispute.
Oh my God.
It's just so sad, isn't it? Because a domestic violence not okay, and then imagine what led up to that dispute and the tension in the house and everything. It was obviously a very unhappy household from when
Mm.
Mary died. That's the feeling I get. At the time, Constable James Thomas was the first man on the scene and discovered Brown standing over his wife, basically holding one of the daughters, one of the
Oh
babies.
no.
And he actually told the constable, there's a little quote there if you're happy to read it.
There she is, dead enough. I have done it. There is no use denying it. For God's sake, let me have one last look at her before you take me away.
Yeah. So we're not talking mentally stable here at all, because that is a confession. The constable's on the scene. It was all very clear what had happened. Her father was tried and hanged on the 10th of June, 1876. This then ripples throughout the community. So
Mm.
it became a public scandal, this really harrowing moment. And this was her third loss, really, within her 15 years. So she'd lost her mother, she'd lost everything she'd known when she got shipped off to boarding school, and now she's lost her stepmother and really her father as well. I was counting
Mm.
them as one, but actually it's 4, isn't it, when you add it up? So obviously that's quite a profound impact on her life. After leaving boarding school, Edith then moved in with her grandmother, Eliza Brown, which is a great name. Love that name.
Mm.
And because of all this trauma and everything that she'd been through, Edith is noticed as quite, they use the word solitary person, which could mean introverted, it could mean quiet, it could just mean detached, I think,
Mm.
maybe as well, because of the shame that her father had brought on her family, right? And it was crippling. And her grandson actually notes in his autobiography that this stretches for generations, like the shame throughout the family. Like it guts out the family dynamic. It's harrowing. That's the only word I've got for this scenario.
It makes sense. I mean, it's such a terrible thing and so public, everyone knows.
Yeah, it was a public hanging, I think, as well, from what I heard. Edith did finish her schooling while she was at her grandmother's with Canon Sweeting, which is a small school in Guildford, and that's like a finishing school. And that for her was a little slither of hope, if you like. It seemed one of the happier times of her life, this Canning school. Canning's quite a famous school in Australia. There's a little quote there that discusses her time there briefly.
Canon Sweeting left Edith Brown at least with a lifelong conviction of the value of education and an interest in books and reading. Yeah.
She sounds my kind of lady.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, if anything, she needed a lifeline, and that obviously, it's such a perfect one.
Yes, absolutely. And books fix everything. So, yes, 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 Edith. And it also shows she values education, I think, and values learning and values exploring, which I think is really interesting as well. So,
Mm.
there we go. We've got Edith's childhood there, like wrapped up in a little bow. I think this trauma, this childhood, could have led her to do one of two things. What do you think?
Yeah, and I mean, she didn't have a lot to fall back on, so it feels like the scales are tipped towards it breaking her?
Yeah. Yeah. So I've kind of written in my notes here, like one way she could have really gone into that shame, focused on that perceived shame. She hasn't done
Mm.
anything wrong at all. This kind of hermit lifestyle, this hiding, this despair. Or she puts work into herself. She could reframe it. She could recognize and actually use that to grow and advocate other change. Today, I'm pleased we're going to tell you a story that goes down the latter of those two routes, which is very good.
Wow. Good for
Yeah, it's
her.
pretty exciting. It is noted that even though we are going down this second route of reframing and advocating change, that for those that knew her and knew her before and after all this trauma, actually they could see the cost that took her. You know what I mean? That
Mm.
she was profoundly different before and after. Like if you knew her well, you could see the before and after pictures, basically. So it is worth noting. But Edith marries quite young. She marries a appointed registrar and master to the Supreme Court,
Mm.
which is a guy called James Cowan. He started out and basically worked his way up, really. Like he started out with lower appointments and worked his way up into the court system. He had a minimal formal education, but he did read extensively in law and became recognized for his legal knowledge. So he's
Oh,
the real deal. You know what I
he's
mean?
no slouch.
Nope,
Yeah.
absolutely not. And he is steadfast in his support for Edith. They stay married until the end, basically. It's a really
Oh.
very unusual in these stories, but it seems to work out. So she's married to Jane in the 1880s and the 1890s. I couldn't find much of note on her because she was busy having children. So
Okay.
she was probably mothering. Okay. She had 5 children in that time, which is a
Wow.
lot. Yep.
It is.
4 girls and a boy. But what she was doing in that time was bringing up her children. But the thing that she was doing, she was listening. So she's got James breadwinning and she's interested and she learns and she acknowledges and she questions and she leans. And suddenly she's got this wealth of experience of her own childhood and the systems that led her father to do what he did, that led her to
Mm.
go down a certain route, that that really precious time she had with her grandmother. She's got that experience, and then she's got James's legal knowledge that she's leaning on as well and seeping. It reminded me of, in Harry Potter and Dumbledore and the Pensieve. It kind of, that's how I kind of felt, that she was like drawing out these strings of knowledge and she was just picking them out. And then what she does with both of these experiences is she she gets prolific in her activity, right? It talk about those few years when I couldn't find much on her, and then it goes from 1 to 100 basically. So because of those two pieces of her personality, so her childhood and what she's learned from James, it is quite natural that she then becomes interested in public service, right? So in the 1890s, she begins to join many, many, many volunteer organizations, including the Ministering Children's League, which is all about the rights of children, and the House of Mercy for Unmarried Mothers, which is
Oh.
what we would imagine that to be in that time. In 1894, she helped found the Karrakatta Club, which is Australia's first women's club, which
Mm.
she served as secretary and then later as president. It's pronounced Kurakatu.
Okay.
Kurakatu, I think it's pronounced. And to me, that sounds like, in Gilmore Girls, where Emily Gilmore's part of is it the DAR? It's kind of that society kind of club. There's a little history about how it was formed. I've taken from their website if you'd like to read that too.
Okay. The Kurakata Club, founded in 1894 by members of the St. George Reading Circle, was formed for the purpose of exchanging and discussing reading material and debating current affairs. Created from a desire to educate and inform women at a time when women experienced great social constraints, the club was founded on the view that anything that educated and enabled women also tended to strengthen men and the community.
Yeah, so the organisation offered women a place to talk about issues and kind of practice being in this intellectual society, right? And public speaking and thinking about women's rights. I've added a picture there of the founders,
Oh,
which is taken from their website. Edith is the one in the center at the back, and I would not want to cross her.
absolutely serious and quite fierce. They all, well, almost all of them look quite serious and quite
Yeah,
fierce.
100%. But I don't know if that's because at the time you weren't allowed to smile. I don't know.
It is a very Victorian, I think that's the time we're in, but
Yeah.
that's what I associate. That sort of seriousness is part of that time, really, isn't it?
Yeah. Edith actually ended up suggesting the motto for the club, which was Spectemur Egondo, which means let us be judged by our own actions.
Oh,
And apparently, this was one of her rules to live by. You know what I mean? Which is
that's
not
a
bad for all.
great, yeah, that's a
Yeah.
solid rule. Yeah. And
Let's
saying
all
it in
try and
Latin
take that.
is drawing that Harry Potter thread back into it as well.
Yes, that's true. That's true. So Cowan was a supporter of state education, and she also did a few terms as a member of the North Fremantle Board of Education, which
Mhm.
was a public office that allowed women, basically. It was one of the few at the time that allowed women in. She also co-founded the Western Australian Society for the Prevention of Cruelty to Animals, which is what we
Oh,
know as the RSPCA. And she did that again with her women friends. So Miss Bess, Mrs. Ethelbert, Mrs. Madeline Onslow, and Miss Wigglesworth. And again, this just shows women clubbing together doing kick-ass stuff, doing amazing things. On top of that, she also was on the committee at the Anglican Church's Social Questions Committee. She was the first woman member of that committee in 1916. And then I just want to talk a little bit about Australian history
hmm.
because it's something I vaguely know about. We're not taught about this in the British school system, just so people know from other, if you're listening elsewhere. We're not taught about this. If you are in your country, you will probably be like, I know this already. But we're not. So in 1901, the Australian government was established as the Commonwealth of Australia, which was what is called a self governing dominion, which means it basically manages its domestic affairs, but they still acknowledge they are subordinate to the British Empire. Okay. So the
Okay.
Brits went over there, took over, and then Australia served them, basically. So what that did was that brought 6 colonies into a new nation. The new government actually operated under a federal parliamentary system, but the UK would remain ultimate control of any foreign policy, okay? Because Australia didn't have full independence. So what you've got is 6 colonies coming together and banding together to establish the Commonwealth of Australia, right? That's what that summarizing is.
Okay.
Then pre that, obviously there wasn't many rights floating about because British Empire not known for that, right? Okay, so the so a lot of suffrage actually came from male spaces, right? So male suffrage was a big deal, and it had been rumbling on really since the 1840s. This made it quite easy, quote unquote easy, as if I've ever done it, but like it gave a little gateway in for women's suffrage because I'm just like you. If you're fighting for this, let me fight for it too. We'll do it together. The Australian Women's Suffrage Society was actually formed in 1889 and with the aim of educating both men and women about a woman's right to vote and stand in parliament. Edith, along with all her other groups, was integral to this group. She helped set it up, she lobbied, she voiced, she rallied the troops, she got support. This actually led to South Australian women achieve the right to vote and stand for office in 1895. Western Australia granted women the vote in 1899, so slightly later, but they did have racial restrictions. And then in 1902, the Australian Parliament passed the Commonwealth Franchise Act, which gave women equal votes, rights to men, and stand for federal parliament. But again, this is white law, right?
Right.
So there is that racial undertone there. So very, like a blip of Australian history. So come the 1900s, Edith continued to work tirelessly with all these organizations. So she was really focused on improving the conditions for women, for children, animals, we mentioned earlier. In 1906, she helped found the Children's Protective Society, which to me feels a bit like the NSPCC that we have over here. It offers even child care centre, so like daycare for mums, like that was never a thing
Wow.
before Edith came along. And then on top of that, she's not only doing stuff on the day-to-day life, she's actually doing it in law as well. So the Children's Protection Society actually passed an act in 1907 called the State Children Act. And that was when she introduced sex education into school and put loads of these safety measures that she'd been lobbying for into law. So she actually created a children's court where children had legal rights.
That
I mean, it's
is
not bad going, is it?
not bad going at all. She really seemed to step up for the vulnerable right across the board.
She also continued to work on women's issues. She helped create the Western Australian National Council of Women and the Women's Service Guilds, which were both women focused organisations. She led a campaign to open a maternity hospital because they didn't exist. You forget these things, they had to, there was a point where they had to be introduced, right? She also then lobbied for regional development of tax incentives. She lobbied for infrastructure for schools. She lobbied for infant health centres, hospitals, roads, like that. She spread her fingers all over society and for the most vulnerable members of those societies as well. And this is what I mean, prolific, right? This is all within a 10-15 year period, maybe 20 years.
That's so impressive.
It's
I bet people
insane.
were terrified when they saw her coming. If you were a member of
Formidable.
the government, you'd think, oh gosh, what's she got for me now?
Yes, 100%. There's a little quote there that just kind of sums up her public service.
Okay. Edith could have had a comfortable life as the wife of a public servant, having a secure job, but according to her biographer, such a life would seem to her to be a waste, cruel for the individual and real for society. I think it's an incredibly generous outlook. It's also a remarkable well of strength for someone who came from such trauma to be able to give of herself. I can only imagine the support that she had, either from her grandmother or from the school or from the friends she made, must have been deep and rich and meaningful, because how has she turned the life that she started with into this? Even for a healthy person, this would have been, a person from a healthy, supportive childhood, this would have been extraordinary.
So all in all, she became a founding, either a member or a founding member or someone on the board of over 40 community organizations. 40, that is 40. That is so many. As
it really
we are
is.
both on, my understanding is that we're both on the board of one committee and we're dead.
It's a lot. One is enough. One is too much. Go on, Edith.
So yeah, props off to her. In terms of this time frame, I think the last date I gave you was 1920, 1915, around that time. Obviously, this is a huge part of history because this is World War One. So on the 28th of June, 1914, Franz Ferdinand and his wife Sophie were assassinated by Serbian nationalists, which propelled towards the start of World War One. Britain declared war on Germany on the 4th of August, 1914. Australia was very much aligned with the British Empire at this point, so fights alongside. Prime Minister at the time was Joseph Cook, and he spoke at Horsham, Victoria on the 31st of July in a meeting. And there's a little quote there that kind of sums up the position of Australia quite nicely.
Okay. He said, "Remember that when the Empire is at war, so is Australia at war. All our resources in Australia are in the Empire and for the preservation and security of the Empire."
Thank you. Yeah, they're aligned.
Well, he's making it damn clear that there is no option for them. You are on our side. We will be using you. Deal with it.
And every quote I found was like that. It was very strong-willed, right?
I guess because it's all kind of happening in Europe, and he's like, "Don't think you're not in this."
So, just as a little aside, if you're if you don't think this is interesting, please tell me and I'll cut it out. But what you often don't hear about is that, well, I've never heard of before, is that in 1884, Germany had actually colonized the northeastern part of New Guinea, which is a little island off the coast of northern Australia. By the outbreak of World War One, the Germans had been using the colony as a wireless radio base and was supporting Germany. Right, it was putting threats on merchant ships in the region. They were being very disruptive. As a consequence of the outbreak, Britain asked for Australia to destroy the wireless installations. So, obviously, that's technically enemy territory. So, a small 25-man force of naval reservists landed on the island at Cabocal Bay, and British allies went inland to capture this radio station. This is really before the wars even got going, right? In that battle, which is called the Battle of Peter Packer, 6 Australians were killed and 5 were wounded.
Oh my gosh.
And that's just such a little blip, isn't it? It's just such a little piece of history that you would never often hear about, I think.
Yeah, I had no idea. And
From our side, anyway.
certainly, no. And the idea that people were kind of told, okay, you're going to go invade sovereign territory and do a sabotage mission and destroy, and it sounds like fight your way there. That
Yeah,
would have been
100%.
incredibly risky, like not only like as soldiers, but as a government to put your people out there.
Yeah.
It's really dicey.
Yeah, it's crazy and
But
just so
Mama
unheard
Britain,
of.
Mama England demanded fealty and they gave it. They did what they were asked.
It's just so unheard of as a slice of history. So Edith, during the war, worked with the Red Cross because of course she did, and established an institute that provided soldiers with meals. Right. She also chaired the Soldiers Welcome Committee. She loves a committee, and the Soldiers Institute Committee. She was also chair of the Greater Perth Red Cross Appeal Committee.
My God.
She was I'm not finished. I'm sorry. She was vice president of the Divisional Committee of Foodstuff for soldiers on hospital ships. But on the flip side, I put here Edith was a very strong pro-conscription campaigner during the war and was an active member of that committee as well, which was called the Perth Recruiting Committee.
That's an interesting
it is, isn't it?
clash, because like you'd expect with all of her kindness and trying to protect people that she might be a pacifist, but clearly not.
It's funny, isn't it? And again, leads into the formidable, the steadfast, iron fast, don't want to mess with her. I'm getting that vibe from her, which is very interesting. But then you can't argue with all those committees. A, she formed, and B, propelled, and what they gave. You can't argue with it as achievements, can you? Because of her work during the war, she was actually awarded the Order of the British Empire in 1920. For a woman to get that and for that to happen with a war like, we've spoken many times about Betsy Carwalder, for example, just not recognised for their work. Yet in this situation, Edith was, which was really interesting. So yeah, she's a busy bee. She's very good at committee work, but we haven't even got to the big hitter yet. So
oh my God.
This is so when you Google Edith Cowan, this is the headline you're going to see, basically. And that happens in 1920 because that is when, as I alluded to earlier, women became eligible to stand for and win seats in the Western Australian Parliament.
Aha.
So the act was passed in 1920. In 1921, she rocks up. She wins a seat. I think one of the reasons she won the seat was because of the 40 damn committees she was on. Like, imagine your network and your influence and your...
Oh yeah, the reach that she's got and the contact she's built.
Yeah, it's big, isn't it? At this point, she is 59. She became the first woman member of an Australian parliament. So she's not a spring chicken either. She was elected in the March, but she didn't give her inaugural speech. Apparently, you get a speech. And that's because the government recognised like how important this moment was, like they call
Oh,
it the symbolic significance of her being there. And they actually gave her the honour of moving the address in reply speech to her, which is the annual response to the governor's opening parliament. So the governor says something and then it's the reply. In that speech, she went hard in this speech. She set out her stall. She was not met. She's not going to waste a second in Parliament because she knows how hard it was to get there. And she does not waste any time dressing them down and sorting them out. Basically,
I
that's kind of
love
the
it.
vibe. I understand the privilege I've got. I'm going to make the most of it. So this is actually a quote from that speech.
Okay. Wow. This is a big one. I know many people think perhaps it was not the wisest thing to send a woman into Parliament. And perhaps I should remind honorable members that one of the reasons why women and men also considered it advisable to do so was because it felt that men need a reminder sometimes from women beside them that will make them realize all that can be done for the race and for the home.
I felt like it was quite an attack.
I agree. I think she's also not dancing around the idea that there are going to be people there who aren't happy with this. She's head on going, I know you're not happy with it, but here's why you need it anyway.
Yeah, 100%. Also, in that speech, she reprimanded the Minister for Railways for the charging 1 shilling to take a pram on a train.
Oh,
I know, such a dick move.
horrible.
Yeah, it's really interesting. The historian Harry Phillips claims that he was so impressed with her argument within this speech, he immediately withdrew the levy. Like, immediately was like, yeah, fair dues. I think that's very difficult. I can't see that happening personally. Like, just because this one woman said it, you're going to fix it all of a sudden. I don't know. And there is evidence that shows that this levy, this fee, pram fee, was still being charged within the same year. So still, so
Oh,
we don't know if her speech made the change or not. There's evidence for both sides.
I wonder if he was being a bit of a dirty dog and sort of said, oh, yeah, of course, it's terrible. We'll get rid of it. And just kept it. Like, no one's
You
going to know.
know,
Oh,
yeah, maybe that's what
well,
happened.
I don't
Yeah,
see why those babies should be able to ride trains for free. Like, come on, charge them that shilling.
I mean, we've got things to pay for, mate. For God's sake.
Yeah.
So during her term, I guess, in Parliament, Edith actually caused a little bit of a stir because she didn't always vote in line with the party. So,
Mm.
which reminds me very much of the wonderful British MP. If you don't know her, you should know her, Zara Sultana, who was Labour for a very long time. And she's recently, I think this year, got kicked out of the Labour Party for voting for the things that would benefit people rather than what her party wants, right? So,
Yeah.
which is exactly what Edith did. So she would always vote to benefit or not discriminate against women and children, right? And therefore, Edith lost the support of her party, which Zara Sultana has lost the whip.
Mm.
Sultana has actually set up her own party now. And it's just, she's one to watch in my mind, Zara Sultana.
I will look her up. That's very
Oh, yeah.
interesting.
And she's so young. She's like 25.
Wow.
I know. And she's so kick ass. She's South Coventry's MP. And she set up a party with Jeremy Corbyn.
Oh.
It's like a far left party. So Edith then stood for re-election. Her opponent was a guy called Tal Davy. He was a scholar from Rhodes, and he had strong support of his party and was very much aligned with Perth's business interests. The Labour Party fielded a candidate in the seat, which is thought to have cost her votes as well. So they split that vote. And actually, there was quite a low turnout that election. So, with all those
Mm.
things amalgamating, pop them in the pot, it's not surprising that Edith lost her seat. So, she did only serve for one term. But as we saw with Wu last time, you can do a lot in one shot. If you get one shot, that doesn't mean you can't do stuff. So I've got a quick list of things to run through that she did in her 4-year term. Would you like to hear it?
I would.
Okay, so Edith introduced the Women's Legal Status Bill in 1923, which opened professions to women for the first time ever, so women could go into male dominated fields such as law.
Wow.
She introduced the Administration Amendment Bill in 1922, which was known as the Private Members Bill, and that allowed equal inheritance rights to mothers when a child dies.
Oh.
Saviour. She tabled a she tabled a notice of motion to eliminate men-only reservation rules to access all parliamentary galleries. So women could now come and watch Parliament for the first time ever.
Mm-hmm.
She amended the Infants Act in 1922, which allowed women to apply to the courts if their husband left them without adequate maintenance. She also argued that women should be legally entitled to a share of their husband's income. She sought the rights for wives to access arbitration court to determine reasonable hours of domestic work and the possibility of payments for household duties. She fought for more funds to education. She argued at length on behalf of trained nurses and army nurses, helping them secure the passage of the 1921 Nurses Registration Bill. She was a founding member of the country's Women's Association in 1923, and it was formed to help meet the needs of women in isolated rural communities, for example, on sheep farms. So she was busy. She was busy in that little town.
She
And
was.
I think all MPs, no matter your country, know what you should look to her and see what you can get done in your term. My brain really struggled to compute all this when I was researching it. Like, I could not, because what was stressing me out was like, because she's across all society, right? She's across animals, rural, women's rights, law, nursing, farmers, soldiers, food, roads, like all parts of society. It's all encompassing. And I was like, but how is she doing all those things well? Right. She must be going thin and wide rather than
Yes, yep.
pinpoint and deep, do you think?
I think that makes sense. What occurs to me is that she would have met with resistance at every single one of those points. So it's not even like someone's gone, oh, thank you so much. This is the solution we've been hoping for. So she would have had struggle and gnarly conversations to throw energy at as well. So, yeah, she must have, or she mobilized her network of contacts and went, here's a bunch of people who are going to sort that out. Off you go then, and didn't take no for an answer.
Yeah, I
Remarkable.
think it is remarkable. She must have known her skill set, is the conclusion I've come away from having reflected on this for a few days now, is that she must have been really good at A, spotting opportunities and spotting gaps, and then B, immobilizing people to get on her wavelength, set up it and move on. I think that's what she was good at, because the timings of all these ventures, they were every so many months. So every 12, 13, 14, 15, 16 months, and then there'd be a new one, and then there'd be a new one, and then there'd be a new one. And I think what she would do would set something up, establish it, make sure the right people with the right voices and the right skill sets were there, and be like, I'm here if you need me. I'm going to go and firefight over there now. I'm going to go and do that for something else. So she was very good at this is all me. This is me assuming her strengths and me assuming what her brain strategy was. But that's what it feels like. It's like, well, I'm just going to build a little castle over here, a little castle over there, a little castle over there. And then by the time I'm done, society as a whole will have just leveled up just a little bit, just a little bit. But the people now have a voice, which means they can leverage that voice to go and do more things and better things. So she was very good. She was very good at rallying the troops, influencing, using her network, systemizing it, getting out, advise if you need to, but I'm going to do that again. I'm going to do it again on the next one, and the next one. And I just think that if that's your skill set, like many entrepreneurs in society are today, many mums, if that's your skill set, rock on. There's nothing wrong with that at all.
Oh, it's
So I
so
went through this.
useful.
Yeah, so I went through this little flip flop with her about like, is this the best thing to be doing with your time? But then on reflection, my guess is that's what she was probably doing. That's my guess.
Yeah, I think of it sometimes when a spacecraft is launched, you've got different parts of it. You've got the sort of booster part, and then you've got the main part, and the booster gets it out of the atmosphere.
She did try for another term later down the line, didn't get that either. And obviously, these terms are every 4 or 5 years. In the meantime, she just carried on. She just carried on doing what she knew best and going where she needed to go and setting up these little castles and committees and just ploughing on. A key player in the 1929 centenary celebrations, which included an old time ball, which she attended.
Oh.
And I've put this in because, we love talking about dresses and headpieces and stuff at the time. And I was like, oh, a ball. And she attended the ball and was actively in planning in that. There's a little quote there.
Mrs. James Cowan was a dignified figure in plum-colored silk, worn with a lappet headdress, trimmed with box-pleated silk, and a shawl in the same color of rich quality. Well, that sounds delightful.
It was a beautiful dress.
I see it. I see the picture.
Great. It's black and white, obviously. So the quote described that as plum, but it looks very grandeur. And if you just hark back to that first introduction piece about her, about that dusty farm, about the pain and the sorrow and the drunken dad, and then you're planning your country's centenary main celebration. It's quite a journey, isn't it? It's quite a 1 to 100 kind of journey. And she looks very kind of Queen Victoria, which might be
Yes.
it might be an influence of the fashion at the time, maybe. But she's got like this headpiece on, and it's in a clearly very grand, stately home, it looks like, in the background. And she's got, I'm not being funny, for her age, her posture is insane. So she's got like her shoulders back, her chin's up.
Yeah.
It's a little smile, a smirk on her face. And you know what? Good for her. Good for her. If that's where you started and this is where you ended, fine.
Amazing.
So Edith was a trailblazer. Only 3 other women between her and 1970 became members of parliament. So
Wow.
even though she was the first, it was still it's like a gap in the door. It wasn't like flinging the door open. But she was admitted to hospital in April of 1932 and died a few weeks later on the 9th of June at around the age of 70. Her funeral was very quick. It only took place 2 days later. And according to reports, a large gathering attended, which is pretty outstanding. That's quite a quick turnaround, isn't it? Just 2 days. And people were traveling, and obviously travel wasn't what it is today. So unless they knew on the weeks leading up to it, anyway, she had a very grand funeral. There is a memorial to her in the form of a clock tower, which was unveiled in Kings Park on the 9th of June 1934, which with apparent controversy, which I think leads to what you were saying earlier. Like, she wasn't just setting up these committees, was she? She was setting up and then arguing and fighting and trying to get her voice heard. And there is that. It's not really shown in any of the texts that I found, but there would have been people who were anti her and anti her stances and viewpoints. And, actually, did she benefit society for those people who were complaining?
Well, no, they were benefiting from things as they were. They were quite happy with the status quo and didn't want those children, those babies in their prams, to get free rides on the train, for God's sake. And we don't want to protect those animals. It's terrible. But yeah, all the things that she was trying to make better for some arguably made it worse for others, because when you're benefiting from inequality, equality feels like oppression. That's the saying, right? So screw those guys. But yeah.
Absolutely fair. So she does have a memorial. In 1990, a university was named after her. And she's actually on the $50 bill.
Oh,
the Australian dollar. And she has been since 1995. And that's how I found her, because I originally wanted to do Elizabeth Fry today, who was on our £5 note for a little while. And I felt like we've done quite a lot of British, so I wanted to do something different. And that's how I found her. It was through the $50 bill. So, and that is the prolific achievements of Edith Cowan.
Thank you so much. I'm so glad that you took us here because it's completely new to me and a place we've never gone to. So very, very good choice.
Good. I'm pleased you enjoyed it because it was a bit. I was worried there wasn't much depth because it was
Oh my
like she just
God,
did
there's
she just
so
did loads of great
much.
stuff rather than normally there's like a struggle, isn't there? It's like
One central
and then
conflict.
we go and then the outcome is this. Whilst this was just like this. And I was like, oh, is that interesting as a narrative? I'm not sure. Um,
I think it's
so yeah,
interesting
hopefully you
as
found it interesting.
like a description of character. You're talking about a type of person and your thoughts about what kind of skill set and mindset make this person successful
Mm.
is really worthwhile, really worth hearing
I'm
about.
pleased. Thank
She
you.
reminds me of Yvonne from choir.
I felt exactly the same. So yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you for listening to this episode of She Changed History. If you enjoyed it, please like, subscribe, and comment below. Find us on our socials, Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. If you've got any ideas of women you'd like us to cover in a future episode, please comment on the socials or email us at shechangedhistory@gmail.com. Catch you next time.